Hello, welcome to the Coopsight webinar. Today we'll discuss the future of ecosystem portfolios, how that will affect startups, incubators, and venture capital, and how those companies should prepare for the upcoming revolution. Today we have me, George, the CEO of Coopsight, our CTO, Errol Bikisi, Chief Operating Officer, Thomas Yee, our Chief Financial Officer, Amas, and our Head of Human Relations, Margarita Duncan. So on the agenda today, we're going to discuss the big problems that venture capital, incubators, and startups are facing, discuss Coopsight software and how we help solve those major problems, the integrations that Coopsight offers, including APIs for different use cases, and the conclusions with the details of our software and offerings.
So today we want to first start off with the big problem that is kind of the elephant in the room, if I must say so myself. When we think about any sort of startup, VC, and also where our startup and our product lies, I would think that the major problem in this is how everything is more or less kind of segregated between the big people and then the small people, the big firms, the small firms, the little guy, and then the big, giant Goliath. So, George, could you go to the next slide? I wanted to talk about really the giant problem that we're having regarding the different types of integrations that there is. There's a lot of different problems with how startups are essentially singular pieces in a giant puzzle, and comparatively, when we look at big tech, there is so many more integrations that they have. George can go more into exactly what I am talking about.
So startups and VCs are shifting their strategy in light of the recent downturn. The main way that this is affecting venture capital is that their number of investments is significantly slowing down in the last quarter, affected by the virus. They're also deploying less money that they have remaining from their LPs in their assets under management, because they're saving up to support in the future the startups that they've already invested into. Meaning that this hurts the existing deal flow and the startups that haven't gotten funding yet. So it's a very difficult environment for startups, leading to them having less money to deploy for customer acquisitions, for growing their business. And at the same time, they're also having pressure from their customers, which are less willing to pay for products and services during this time. So meaning that they're looking for new ways to partner with each other to at least sustain some business during this time. And last but not least, major corporations around the world that are focused on both offline and digital businesses, now they're shifting towards a full digital solution, meaning that they're looking for startups to work with to get through this major crisis.
And so with that being said, we kind of looked at the industry altogether with the fact that venture capital investment is slowing down. Smaller numbers of startups are getting funded. The coronavirus is really putting a giant havoc on all businesses alike, not just this part of the financial world. There's P&E funds, there's sovereign wealth funds, there's everyone is obviously taking a hit, save for maybe some communication softwares like Zoom, the exact same software that we're using right now. But this kind of brings up an idea that we shouldn't be working on the same guidelines where everything is kind of singular. I don't believe that businesses are just solely one thing and one thing entirely, and that's going to be what it is for its future. we have to look at a new way of looking at how businesses should be clustered together. When we think about Alibaba, sure, you might think of the ways that Alibaba is a e-commerce website, but as someone that has lived in China, along with George, along with Arrow, and all of our NYU Shanghai people that we've had relations with, we see that Alibaba is not just Alibaba. There's Didi, there's Alama, there's all sorts of like subsidiary companies underneath them that pretty much make up this ecosystem, an ecosystem where everything is Alibaba and you don't even know it is. And they find new creations between these things that you would never think would be possible that represent Alibaba. Even they go into grocery business, and I guess the US, they use Amazon, and they look at they look at how to do with Whole Foods, how to actually combine things together. You look at AWS, there's a lot of examples of an ecosystem as a service that pretty much combines these networks of companies and makes a new business out of that. So we need to kind of take a step back, look at how big tech is really using this to survive. We need to look at how a lot of different companies are using these ecosystems to try to survive, and see, maybe startups can actually do this as well. Maybe venture capitalists can also look at startups and start thinking, how can we create new creation that we don't even know, and we're the first ones to actually see this material. So I think that would be a very beautiful thing. So that's exactly what our software is kind of segueing into. Coopsight software is entirely meant for us to kind of see how do synergies happen without us even knowing that they could, by using data science to actually go and see how is it that we can do certain things, breaking the rules, if you will, to get to somewhere that normally people wouldn't even dare to get to venture out.
So to us, this problem of venture capital and startups being in the same competition scale as the big tech companies, and also possessing the same potential network effect that is, kind of embedded in the venture capital business itself. To us, it seemed like a problem that needs fixing and a problem that needs automation to bring them to the same scale of the use of ecosystems as those big tech companies, by automating the process of finding within the networks, finding startups that can cooperate between each other and use potential matching synergies to unlock the full ecosystem value add, bringing not only growth to individual startups by themselves through direct investments, but at the same time also seeing growth for the whole ecosystem of the venture fund by making those investments that are synergetic with the rest of the network. And the same goes for accelerators, incubators, tech conferences, etc. There's plenty of use cases here. So now I'll go into the Coopsight software and actually show the functions that we have. So this is our landing page. Just a second here. Okay, so this is the page, the test page that we've made for our potential customers. And first we'll show the upload feature. So venture capital firms, corporate venture funds, tech events, accelerators, and incubators, they can upload their full portfolio onto the Coopsight software. They can add all of the files that their companies have, as well as all of the information regarding their startup. They can also add new deal flow companies to see how companies that are potentially new investments for that venture capital portfolio or that incubator match together with their existing portfolios to find synergies right off the bat and be able to provide value add from the start of their investment. So here you can match any of the portfolio companies together with portfolio companies and together with new deal flow that is incoming. Then you can go on to the matching feature. And while we are waiting for the loading of that, Thomas can go into the scoring metric that we currently use.
So currently we use just through this first analysis with our basic product, it's trying to use keywords about what the company is to essentially generate synergies by looking at similar keywords, looking at very high dimensional space sort of connections between words again. So you think about, let's say, cars, and then you look at, I don't know, food, you might come out with, Uber Eats or something like that. So this score is trying to represent different industries, different sort of keywords that are associated with those industries, and take a very high approach and trying to funnel it down to a simple score, a numerical value to show between company A and company B there's a high synergetic effect. So you can see on the software there's a ranking order between the companies that we see on the top, which is probably the most highest synergies, to the ones on the bottom a little bit lower, just synergies.
And specifically, for example, for this case, I chose a company called LifeSum. It's weight management application that helps you lose weight and have the right nutrition and the right diet. So we match it together with the rest of the portfolio of this test venture capital firm, and we can see the average score that that company has compared with the full portfolio, with every single investment that the venture capital firm has made, as well as also the individual companies that are in the portfolio of the venture capital firm, to see the specific synergies that LifeSum has with the rest of the portfolio, and see how LifeSum can add value to those companies and how also they can help LifeSum grow. So, for example, here, one of the highest match results that we've seen is no surprise, a healthcare company, Kaya Health. They help with digital therapeutics and telemedicine to basically connect patients with doctors digitally. And here you can see the match scores and also the match insights in keywords that we have found between the Kaya Health and the startup that we're currently matching. So those include, things like exercise routine, core energy, food goals, health, lifestyle, and basically give an overview of where those synergies lie and how can those two startups, for example, how they can cooperate in the future, potentially having an ability to connect their doctors with patients to discuss exercise routines, the food and diet that the patients of Kaya Health take through the other app, the LifeSum, and also show potentially how the patients of Kaya Health, how their health improves with a diet, where they have integration together with those two applications to basically have a more streamlined approach towards patient health.
And this insight will only get better as we go along. As of now, we are operating on keywords, but there will be more graphs, more analytics, more ways to pretty much break down companies and see how can they get even better integrations. We've just listed a couple theoretical, of course, scenarios where these certain integrations are specific, but they will get all the way to that point in the future. Yeah.
Great. So going back to the main presentation. We also offer integrations of our software, to basically allow this matching process to take place pretty much in any application that requires matching, that has startups that are looking for new partnerships, and has startup networks that still are yet to unlock the full potential of their ecosystem. So without further ado, our CTO Errol will discuss the Coopsight APIs that we provide.
So at Coopsight, we do understand that not everybody wants to be using our web app, but still they want to be able to have the power to leverage their own clients and, for instance, they're startups, to then form these new unseen hidden insights. So our API actually allows for your product to still essentially be the star of the show, but it also provides the additional benefit of, as we like to say at Coopsight, to find wonder. So our API redefines partnership matchmaking with the ability to automate partnership discovery of your networking application, quickly display the insight on the mutual synergies to all users and recommendations on further partnerships, facilitate instant messaging communication between most promising matches. And you can see how we are actually able to be very flexible to be working with your own product, because at the end of the day, you know your own product much more than we do. But like I said, our API will just give you this extra boost, this extra benefit, and this extra insight that you never even knew you initially needed.
It's a great introduction. So there are multiple use cases for this API integration, because currently there's plenty of different examples of how startups and where startups interact with one another, which events take place, and how venture capital firms are also able to onboard those events and potentially network with the startups. So a great example is startup competitions that take place globally that need an ability to match the competing startups with venture capital firms to basically find new investments, as well as tech conferences where there's plenty of different attendees, including corporate partners, corporate venture capital firms, accelerators, and startups that are all looking to fill in the missing gaps in their ecosystem. There are also accelerators and incubators that have demo days where startups present and also compete. And there are also investors attending those conferences, so it's important to match them too. And also the API works for venture capital firms that have online submissions of pitch decks to instantly display the synergies between the incoming pitch decks and the existing portfolios of the VC for them to make better investment decisions. So to go further into one of the examples, we can discuss a specific integration between Coopsight and tech conferences. So we offer tech conferences an integrated solution of an API to live on the networking application of the tech conference for all of the attendees to be able to match with one another and then very quickly proceed into direct networking. This would be especially important, and we've seen a huge spike in demand due to the movement of all of the tech conferences into a digital format, where it is much harder to find icebreakers to facilitate the initial point of contact between startups and venture capital firms. And also it's much harder to cut through the noise in a digital space to find specifically a startup that a VC is looking for.
And so with that being said, we will be able to, we created a couple mock-ups, a couple of scenarios on what the actual tangible product would look like if we were to integrate with any sort of tech conference that is out there, willing to go for these matches, try to find integrations, new synergies, what we just said before. So with this sort of picture, we've tried to map out that when you do a tech conference, we can actually have an ability to store the data and to have all of this accumulated resource from startups, from partners, from full venture portfolios, all of these type of people. They can essentially upload their information such that our algorithms can break down what is the keywords that are relevant inside the material that they want. So think pitch decks, think any sort of marketing material, think of pretty much anything at all. We would be able to have the upload section here, and it would generate for the company the types of keywords that are relevant toward their business line.
And to quickly add on to this. The way that the upload works, it's both for VC firms and startups to onboard information that they have, and also we potentially have other solutions to have a mass upload to make sure that there aren't any bottlenecks in the speed of the process of the upload.
So this kind of goes back to what was previously stated about our APIs, where we're actually able to match your attendees with each other. So at tech conferences, chat systems are commonplace, but there really does lack this kind of innovative reason to then start chatting away. And as George said, you kind of need like an icebreaker almost, because we have experience at tech conferences, like we just attended Web Summit in Portugal in 2019. But it was more like reaching out to other companies is more so just kind of initial thought of this company seems like a good match, so therefore I will reach out and start messaging them. But this is just kind of old-fashioned almost, where with our software we're actually able to provide a more modern and initial thought and give a more grounded analytic approach to this. So this tech conference matching is going to be matching startups with optimal investors and potential startup and corporate partners that will boost their business scope for both sides. It's a mutual synergy. And this also allows for cooperation amongst your attendees to provide previously unseen insight that we've previously as well have been saying. And this provides a new innovative way to match and collaborate. So this gives your attendees the answer of exactly why to chat, to then again promote this further hidden collaboration.
So the next, we can go directly into the features that the API has, mainly how we match different startups, startups with partners, and startups with investors, and also vice versa for the investors and partners. First, we'll have an introduction on the startup to startup integration by Marco.
Yes. So as Errol mentioned, there are many ways to connect for startups, investors, VCs, and all alike using Coopsight software. So who can use and benefit those match scores precisely? For example, when startups match to other startups, they find new partnerships between each other using other startup scores, and they can use that to grow together. For corporate partners, we also have many ways to benefit from this partnership with startups through our matching software. And lastly, we also help to connect startups to partners or larger companies. We show them how they can benefit from this larger alliance in greater details, and help them partner using a larger match score. We want to help them build solid partnerships and find new growth together.
Also, the API allows the startups that are currently definitely not seeing the investment come in, basically still find a way to make an investment, to make a claim to both venture capital firms, especially corporate venture capital firms and partners, that an investment is still relevant, that the reason why they usually attend the conference to find investors for the initial round or subsequent rounds, that is still relevant, and that they can actually add much more value than the VC sees in them just as a pure investment that will outperform their return in the future, but also for those startups to be able to connect with other companies and fully increase the portfolio. So this redefines essentially how tech conferences affect startups and VCs by making their impact much more substantial, where the partnership that comes out of a tech event, now it would stay and stick for years and years to come, because the synergies that we would find, they're substantial enough to continue business for a very long time. So Thomas can also describe the ways that investors on their side can match the startups.
It appears Thomas is muted.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So just to go back into what we were talking about, essentially, because there's so many different ways that these tech conferences can do integrations, you've already seen startups to startups, startups to businesses. We also want to kind of think about it from the other way, the stream downward, where rather than, a startup trying to contact an investor, it's more an investor is looking for startups that are more appropriate for their portfolio. When we think about when we were at West Summit, for example, there was obviously very specific firms that wanted very specific things and looking for very specific partnerships to help strategically not only grow their portfolio, but have appropriate means to actually support these startups. So this is essentially what we're getting to. We're trying to help all of our startup investors, investors that invest in startups, that are trying to look for specific things and find the appropriate matches that are actually going to work for them. So within our mock-up of what this integration would look like is we would have a list of different startups that exist out there, and just through the information that the tech conference can maybe collect, or through our own upload feature that we've talked about previously, we can come out with scores about how relevant these startups would be to your firm through, again, a numerical value. And when we click onto it more, you can actually see what is actually connecting through, which keywords, which materials are actually the things that investors are looking for. So altogether, this is going to allow for many different targeted interactions between investors and startups, and you wouldn't just precariously have an infill of all of these deal flows that aren't really in your best interests.
Yeah. And also the VC can find the ways, if it's a very interesting perspective investment for them, they can also find arguments to build when they have a subsequent meeting with the startup of how they can help them grow. So it kind of works both ways, where VCs are looking for something that helps the portfolio and also are looking for new ways to get the startups on board that they're very interested in. So now we go into the conclusions of the webinar. First, we'll have Errol discuss the security aspects of our API and our software.
So we do understand that, you certainly hear the phrase, built-in security, or security is our base, our foundation, for many software companies. But I can 100% assure you that from the start of Coopsight, we wanted to make sure that everything we do has been tested and proven to provide the best security and safety to our users and their data. So while we attempt to draw matches and cooperation among startups, investors, funds, and others, such as VCs, we understand the importance of security, because we want to be able to give our users the power to essentially have as much privacy as they want to control. So we do believe that free, secure flow of information within your ecosystem is of vital importance, and we actually want to be able to really do provide that you are able to work towards what's really important, which is finding this insight, and not so much of worrying about where your data is, where your safety is. We just want to make sure you feel safe and secure so you can focus on insight. So our current tech stack includes the newest and most innovative software to ensure your data is protected. And we work with Google Cloud, which we do believe as like the best cloud provider to ensure your company is able to cooperate seamlessly with high speed and efficiency. And we're also actually working towards allowing for you, the user, to further control how your privacy is actually used in our software. So it gives you more flexibility to see I want this hidden for maybe, like if you're a VC, you want maybe your startups to, not be able to see this information. So it does give you the excess layer of this protection and flexibility, because like I said, we do want you guys to feel safe, because we do view you as almost an extension of our family.
To go on a little bit more about that, I just wanted to state that the ways that our software kind of allow for itself is that we are not a company that tries to mine for other people's data. Like, that is not the intention of what I guess our goals are. That is not what their company stands for. Like, we won't go and try to strip all the information we could find either from web scraping or Salesforce or anything. Like, the information is only as good as how much the company is willing to give. So that's what we believe. We don't want to step over other people. So with the security aspect, obviously we have correct security, the technology behind it, but even the people behind it, where we don't want to have a situation where it's just haphazardly taking your data without even having any idea of what the implications or ramifications are.
Thank you, Aaron Thomas, for the introduction of our security and how we strive to provide the most privacy for our users.
So, hello everyone. For our beta version is already running and available for everyone to try. For the full version of our software, we'll charge $7,500 semi-annually. In terms of functionality, the full version offers additional useful matching insights that really allows to find and unlock inner synergies. Moreover, in terms of our IPA costs, they will vary based on the time of usage and are charged by the daily count.
Thank you. And based on the API integrations with our partners, there's also flexibility in the way that we'll set the pricing. So it will vary based on events, the demand, obviously, and also how far would the partnering side want us to collaborate with them? Would they want us to have a hands-off approach or a more hands-on full integration with design aspects included as well?
And so I guess we will leave the conference out. We will have, given that this is on YouTube, we're going to have more of the answers, kind of, last remarks, last sort of materials. Any sort of people that have questions will answer within the chat system, just to clarify that. George, do you want to give any closing remarks, or anyone here? I mean, it would be good to say.
So we really hope that now you have a better understanding of the shift that is taking place in venture capital and tech towards an ecosystem approach, and also the way that we are ahead of the curve in automating this process and allowing you to have the newest processes automated to an extent where they seamlessly integrate with whatever use cases and whatever need you have to basically drive forward cooperation and collaboration between all startups, and to make sure that this downturn doesn't end up destroying businesses and sustaining them with an ability to match.
Yeah. We really hope that we can help you within your journeys. We understand that everyone is having a lot of different troubles with Corona, and we hope that everyone's safe, everyone's healthy, everything is going well. And we would love to talk to all of these investors, startups, everyone here, because we want to provide value add for the business, for your businesses. Because we believe that's the only way to go through and survive not only just Corona, but also the ways of how to essentially compete with big tech, with giant companies, we're the David to the Goliath. Any sort of person that says that, that's what our software will provide, the ability to essentially have stories about us, the Davids, being able to win. And hopefully we can find wonder throughout this entire process. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. It was very fun talking about all of this stuff.
And reach out to us for any further information. You can find our contacts on our website or on our LinkedIn at Coopsight. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much.